Hello, Revolutionary Thinking. I am here with Michael Badnarik, who was the former presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party in 2004. Now, I always talk about the education system on my channel and just how I think that it hasn't really helped us in our lives and hasn't really helped us while we're growing up. For years, I used to be frustrated and annoyed and bothered, but I finally think I decided to do something about it. And that something is to just have conversations with people about if we can't fix or change the system, what can we actually do for ourselves to be aware of this problem and do something about this problem. So, Michael, maybe you can start by talking about your experiences that you've had yourself with the public schools, how it's affected you either positively or negatively, and what you decided to do about it yourself.
I've actually had very little contact with the public schools. My parents were very, very big on education. They did pay taxes, property taxes, to support the local public schools. But then my parents paid additional money to send my brothers and me to a Catholic school. And when you're in Catholic school, not doing your homework is not even a consideration. You will do your homework. You will learn. Well, let's define what learning is. Learning is, being able to reproduce the thought process in your head. It is not the repetition of facts, not memorizing. I can teach a parrot to talk, but you and I both know that the parrot is not going to understand the words that he's saying. He's not going to be able to invent new sentences. It's just repeating. And so the public school only requires students to memorize and repeat back like they were parrots. They are not required. In fact, they're dissuaded from being able to think. In the Catholic school, we were not getting the right answer was a secondary thing. Okay, understanding why you got the correct answer was the important thing. If I teach you how to add 2 plus 2 and come up with 4, if you just memorize that, you have one arithmetic problem that you can do. But if I ask you to do, 4 plus 4 or 8 plus 8, you're not going to be able to get it because you haven't learned. All you've done at this point is you're repeating things back. You are incapable of reproducing the thought process in novel and unique situations. In the school that I went to, we were obligated to read, we were obligated to comprehend, and we were obligated to explain what we read in our own words. Not just, repeat word for word what, had been printed on the page. In math, we were expected to be able to do complex, equations. Again, understanding where the answer came from, understanding why we got the wrong answer, and then doing it again until we demonstrated our ability to think. My parents would pick us up after school and take us to the museums in Chicago. In, it was 1837, I think, we had the Chicago Columbian Exposition. It was a World's Fair. It was the first time that electric lights were used, and the public was amazed. You didn't have to go to bed at 6 or 7 o'clock when the sun went down. You could stay out until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. My God, it was practically overnight because they had electric lights and you could see where you were going. So as a result of this exposition, Chicago ended up with many, many wonderful museums. We had the Adler Planetarium, the John G. Shedd Aquarium, the Museum of Natural History, and my favorite is the Museum of Science and Industry. And my parents would take my brothers and I there, and we would spend hours. I mean, we would go a dozen times a year. At least once a month, we were going to a museum. And we, on top of all the actual education that we got, we were expected to explore and come up with, what is it that you're interested in? What do you want to know? And how do you find it? And then for the summers, my parents would take us on vacation, and I went to 48 of the continental United States. My brothers and I have seen most of the national parks. We've been to about half of the state capitals. And so, yes, we got a really good education at the Catholic school, but most of our education really came from mom and dad, who took the time and energy and money to expose us to as many different things as possible. And even as a child, traveling around the United States, I recognized that not everybody lives the way that we do.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Michael, how is it that these kids in these schools that probably their parents don't have the resources to take them to go exploring and to go to a museum and these things like that, but through no choice of their own, they have to go in these public schools and they're miserable. Why is it that these schools can't organize something like that for them to go exploring and things like that?
Because that is not the purpose of the schools. If you believe that the purpose of the schools is to educate our children so that they can grow up to control the country and be wealthy, you are incredibly naive. The people who have organized the public schools want docile, complacent workers. They don't want anybody who is smart enough to argue. They want people just smart enough to go and work the assembly lines, slave away, make a little bit of money so you can watch a Super Bowl and drink beer, but not much more than that. They want you to be, unskilled workers, and they want you to be complacent so that you will do whatever the government tells you to do. Most of our lives we've been conditioned to be complacent. When you're 5 years old, you have to do what mom and dad tell you to do. Eat your vegetables, do your homework, turn off the TV, go to bed at 8 o'clock. Go to school, you got to listen to the teachers, turn in your homework. You get your learner's permit, and you got to follow the directions of the police officer. Use your turn signal. Don't cross the yellow line. Then you get a job after college, and now you have to do everything that your manager tells you to do. Get your project reports turned in by Friday. You've got to turn in your timesheet. And if you want a vacation, you've got to beg for a weekend off.
Talking about college, what's your opinion on this new American psyche? College for everyone. Everyone take out a loan. Everyone get a 4-year degree, when some people, they just want to get a job. They want to do something different. How did this come into being?
Well, it's a continuation of the same thing. If you study, the Carnegie Institute and all of these nonprofit organizations, their explicit purpose was to condition people in the United States to prepare them to be merged with other communist countries. We don't want you to be independent. We don't want you to be able to be smart and to be able to think for yourselves. We want you to think whatever we tell you to think. And so that's why you have mainstream media. Most people only watch one news channel at all. But if you compare every single news channel, they are using exactly the same phrases. It's as if the government has written the script, and they hand that same script to all the news channels, and everybody is using the same phraseology. We are overwhelmed with what we should think, and people are conditioned to go with the flow. That's what politically correct is. Politically correct means that you are unable to think for yourself, and you got to know what's on the news or what's in the general public so that you can agree with whatever the general consensus is.
I see. Is it so then? What is your advice for those young people out there who see this problem going on through? They were forced into the public schools, got a 4-year degree, and now they're kind of they feel like they're chained to this system. How do you expand your horizons? How do you get in touch with people so you can kind of get out of the gravity of this thing that's pulling you in? Is there a way people can do that, or are they just trapped, or what can happen?
They are trapped, and they are part of a system, and it's part of a system that is designed to prevent them from excelling. So if they have a degree, they can't get a job, and they have $100,000 in
student loan
debt, student loan debt. Well, that's all by design. You were suckered into the trap, and now you're stuck. You're going to have to get the hell out of the trap. Now, the best way to do it is not to go in the trap in the first place. Okay? Right. But the student loans that you have were basically designed to keep you dependent on the government. If your life is dependent on the government, then you have to do what the government says, or they're not going to give you a cheese sandwich.
It's like an umbilical cord that you're attached
to. It is very much like an umbilical cord, and you got suckered into it. If you had been lucky, your parents would have recognized it ahead of time, and you wouldn't be in the situation. But going to college, college is so expensive these days.
Why?
Right. If I say, hey, you want a cup of coffee? You go, well, yeah, I'd really like a cup of coffee. I said, it's going to be $25. Are you going to buy the cup of coffee? No. The cost-benefits ratio, you'd like a cup of coffee, but you don't want to give $25 for it. It's not worth it.
No way.
So how much would a college education have to cost before you go, well, screw that, it's just not worth it?
Let me ask you, if there's a job trainings program and there was no job on that other end, would you call that a scam?
Well, it's not clever to start throwing words around.
Okay.
To define what a scam is going to require a little bit more detail than not getting a job when you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's one of the problems that we have, because we never learned how to read in grade school. We didn't learn that definitions are important. Most of the general public believe that the United States is a democracy.
It's a republic.
Not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic, and there is a significant difference. When I was running for president of the United States, I was doing a radio program, and in the introduction, somehow I casually mentioned that the United States is not a democracy. We started taking phone calls from the audience, and the first woman to call was apoplectic. I mean, you could visualize her shaking on the phone, and she's telling me, Mr. Badnarik, you're an idiot. You're not qualified to be president of the United States because you don't even know that the United States is a democracy. And my response to her was, I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands. At which point she hung up on me and didn't want to debate anymore.
That's sad.
So there are all these people who think they know the answer, but they're not qualified to be in the conversation.
Right. And speaking of the Pledge of Allegiance, it just occurred to me that, I don't know, when you were in the Catholic school, did they make you say the Pledge of Allegiance in the Catholic school?
We didn't have to. It wasn't a mandatory thing. I don't remember saying it every day. We might have.
Mm-hmm. Because I know in the public schools they made us do it. But the thing is when you got a group of second graders and third graders, I didn't even know what those words meant when I was saying them.
I understand. And that's another piece of evidence that it's not a school system, it's not an education system, it is an indoctrination system. And we watch black and white movies of World War II, and we are horrified when we see young children standing there in their Nazi uniforms with their hand up, saluting the Fuhrer. It's like, oh my God, those poor brainwashed children, they don't even know what they're supporting, and here they are giving having children say the Pledge of Allegiance when they're too young to understand it is equally bad. Now, you may not notice it because you think the Pledge of Allegiance is really wonderful, but if you do a little bit of research, you find out that it was written by a socialist.
Yeah.
So, I have no problem with the Pledge of Allegiance saying one nation under God. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is the next phrase, which says that we are indivisible. Really?
Really?
Indivisible means that you're not allowed to secede.
Uh-huh.
And that's wrong. Secession is bad. Really? Have you ever heard of the Declaration of Independence? Declaration of Independence was a secession document. We used to be a part of England, and we told King George, take this job and shove it. We're not playing by your rules anymore.
And these kids with liberty and justice for all, but it seems like when you're under 18 years old, there's no liberty and justice for you. You have to ask to go to the bathroom. I mean, is that like to relieve a bodily function? It's kind of, it just seems a little awkward.
Okay, let's again, this is one of those statements which is incendiary. Mm-hmm. It is a syllogism. It sounds like it's true, sounds like it should be true, but basically it is not. All right?
Right.
Do children have rights? The answer is yes. Absolutely. Children have rights. Does a 6-year-old have a right to keep a loaded .45 on their hip? Now, I am perhaps the strongest Second Amendment supporter that you will ever meet. And even I will not allow a 6-year-old to carry a loaded gun. Why? Because rights and responsibilities are opposite sides of the same coin. You do not have a right for which you do not also have a responsibility. You have a right to life? Yes. Do you have a responsibility to put food down your throat once in a while? Yes. And if you fail that responsibility, if for whatever reason you choose not to eat, then you're going to starve to death and you will no longer have life. So every right has an inherent responsibility. Do a man and a woman have a right to have children? Yeah. After the child is born, who's responsible for protecting the child? The parents. Who's responsible for feeding the child? The parents. Who's responsible for teaching the child all the skills and values they need to be a functional adult? The parents.
But they outsource it to the schools sometimes.
They give their children the most important thing in their lives. I love my children, and you're going to give the most important thing in your life to the government and teacher-controlled schools. We don't teach them how to read. We don't teach them how to count. We don't teach them how to think rationally. We give them participation trophies. Mm-hmm. And then your children, whom you love so much, graduate from high school. They are functionally illiterate, and parents have the audacity to complain, well, my children didn't learn the skills and values I wanted them to learn. Why not? Because you abdicated that responsibility. You gave that responsibility to somebody else. Right. And now you're upset that they didn't do your job well enough. You didn't do your job at all.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what's your whole opinion on ADD, ADHD, attention deficit disorder, the drugs that they give the children when they're not paying attention in class?
Those are criminal attacks on our children. They are absolutely criminal attacks on our children because teachers are not allowed to teach. Teachers are now just there to facilitate quiet classrooms. And let me guess, children have a short attention span. Who knew? You've got to keep children's interest, occupied. They will learn like crazy if you know how to do it. I had a friend of mine call. She was separated from her husband. Her children were coming for the summer. She called me on the phone and said, I want you to teach my children. And I went, that's fine. What would you like me to teach them? She goes, I really don't care. I just want you to spend 48 hours with them. And I did. I took them to a museum. I took them to some of the Texas historical events. And when we came back Sunday evening, Mom said, well, what did you learn this weekend? And they were like tape recorders. They just spewed. I didn't even think that they were paying attention. And they remembered and repeated correctly all the information that I expressed to them. Because I didn't ask them to memorize it. I asked them questions. I had them figure it out in their own head. So if they figure it out for themselves, they've thought it through. Now they understand it. And now, because they understand it, they can explain it in their own words. So I have arguments all the time. With people who are in the school system, I tell them I would never work in the school system. I like to teach.
And the school system doesn't do that.
No, it doesn't. We have a program, No Child Left Behind. The other truth of that is that no child is allowed to advance. We're making all of our children the same, and the only way to do that is to go to the lowest common denominator. So if you did have children that were clever, intelligent, and capable of becoming brain surgeons, you just washed it out of them.
That's sad.
Like,
I mean, we're getting our potential and we're destroying it.
Absolutely. And that's why the American economy is failing. We used to be the #1 country in the world. Other countries used to send their children to the United States because the United States was #1 in math and science. Well, now we're not #1 or 2 or 3. I think we're somewhere around 30th in math and science. We're not even playing the game.
Michael, the damage that's been done, do you think it can ever be undone, or are we just beyond repair?
The damage can be undone, but perhaps not with the generations that are already grown up. Okay, if I have a forest fire that destroys everything down to the ground level, everything is charred and burned. The only thing that you can really do is plow that under and let the charcoal and nitrogen become fertilizer. But if you want another forest, you're going to have to plant seeds, let the grass grow, You can do it, but you're going to have to do it from scratch, and it's going to take 20 or 30 years before you have anything that resembles a forest. Because the previous generations are gone. I mean, you can't water. If a tree is burned to a crisp, you can't just add a little bit of water and fertilizer and expect it to turn green again. And if I have a child and I don't give that child the proper nutrition, that child is neglected and maybe even partially starved for the first 7, 8 years of its life. Then I have the child adopted into a family. They give the child good food, plenty of sleep and love. That child will be much better off than it was, but that child is physically stunted. It's never going to be able to run as fast. It's not going to die right away, but it's never going to be playing for the NFL, because as a child develops, it is those early years of development which are crucial, absolutely crucial to its future health. And if you destroy that part, after that, you're just kind of compensating. Now, that's easy enough for us to understand, because when we look at this child, they may be an adult now. But, if they only weigh like 98 pounds and they're really thin, you go, well, that's not a normal adult. That person doesn't have the mass, it doesn't have the strength.
It's kind of like
no amount of exercise will bring it back.
Right.
The same thing is true about intellectual development. You need to learn how to read. You need to learn how to count. You need to learn how to think logically at a very early age. And if you don't get that training when you're young, you may look physically healthy. You may be 6 foot tall, 200 pounds, and appear to be a normally functioning adult physically. But your brain activity is never going to be the same. You're going to be, selling newspapers door to door. Right. You're unable to think when the government says, "Oh, we have global warming. You need to vote, Democrat or Republican." You're going to listen because you're incapable of figuring it out for yourself.
But you see, a lot of people, they like to hate on the millennials. They call them lazy, entitled, and all this stuff. But I see them as just victims that they didn't choose their parents or their schools or the way they got educated. That's not a choice. That is something that you're made to do when at a very, very young age. So I think they need help or something. I mean, I don't know.
I agree with you. They do need help, and they are victims. They were not planting cotton, but they were definitely slaves to the system. And as I just explained, if they didn't get that education when they were young, no amount of counter education is going to make up for the deficit. They may be able to get a job. They might be productive, in the general workplace, but they are never going to be brain surgeons. Those of us who are less than enthusiastic about millennials think that the millennials are rather self-centered. Okay, I've been to grade school, I've been to high school, I've done some college now, give me my job. Because that's what they were promised. Mm-hmm. You were promised, the American dream. And all you got to do, here's your participation trophy. And what is that credit for? For what? Being in the room with everybody else? When I was growing up, they had first and second place. Maybe they had third place. You had a whole room full of children, and only 1 or 2 children got an award. This person is
the participation trophies. The system gave it to them.
Well, I'm trying to explain that participation trophies is something that neutralizes your desire to compete and excel. Okay? If only one person can be best, then you're going to work really hard to be the best person. You're kind of like, oh my gosh, I got second place. I'm so disappointed. Okay? And everybody else is, we're worried about their psyche. I'm worried about you being smart. If you didn't get the trophy, then you're not smart enough to get it. You didn't work hard enough. You want to get a trophy for being fast? Then you're going to have to run. You're going to have to practice. You're going to have to be strong. You're going to have stamina and endurance. And you're going to have to run faster than everybody else. It's really hard. But if you don't dedicate yourself and put in the effort, then you don't accomplish anything.
True. But what about the ones who went to medical school and the ones who like became a lawyer and they did well and they did everything that was, you know, asked of them, but they still didn't get the job because of layoffs, like the economy had something happen, you know. So there's a difference between doing the work and getting the grades and doing well and not getting the job because of something that's out of your control. And there's a difference between just being lazy, getting all the F's, and not getting the job because you were a bad student.
Life sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm 64 years old. I used to be a computer genius. Now I'm a technical trainer. I'm a polymath. That means that I am an expert in many, many, many subjects. I can answer almost as many questions as Google can. I have a great deal of experience. I am the top of my class. I would be the smartest person in your company. But in today's society, we don't want people who are elderly. We want the young, virile people. I've had phone calls where the person says, we have your resume, we think we can find you a job. I said, okay, I'd like to find a job. What year did you graduate from high school? I said, it's against the law for you to ask me that question because you're not allowed to discriminate based on, you know, race, gender, age, you know, sexual preference. Oh my God, we write all these wonderful things about how we're going to be fair to everybody. I said, so you're not allowed to ask me that. And they asked me again. I said, I graduated in 1972. They hung up the phone. They don't even have the courtesy to say, I don't think we have a job for someone your age. They don't even have the courtesy to go, my God, you're old. They just hang up the phone. So, you know, I have friends of mine who are really smart. They get a job interview. They're not hired because they are smarter than the person who is hiring them. And the person hiring them is worried that they're going to take their job. I haven't been able to get a job in 2.5 years because they're afraid I'm going to take over the company.
There's a lot of politics involved.
I did a phone interview. I was perfect for the job. They sent me an email and said, we've chosen a different candidate. I went back to the job board, and there's the same exact job posted again the day before. Well, I didn't submit my resume because I had the phone number. I called up and said, if your first candidate didn't work out, I'm still available. They said, no, we don't need you, thank you. And I went to the company website. All the employees were 20 and 30 years old. One employee was dressed up in a costume like a cat. The nose is black. They got little whiskers painted on their face. They got little ears on their head. Really? That's the photograph you're going to put on the goddamn company website? What are you, 6?
Well, would you want to work for a company like that now?
Everybody, all the employees in the company were 20 or 30 years old, and the people who founded the company, The old people in the company were about 45. I'm 20 years older than the people who started the company. It's difficult, if not impossible, to prove age discrimination. But if we are so compelled to look for excellence, I should have had a job 2.5 years ago.
See how that works. So, I mean, like you'd probably be against any kind of job guarantee or something like that because it's not.
There are no guarantees except that you are going to die. That's the only guarantee. Nobody owes you anything. You get to survive or fail based on your ability. Unfortunately, we've had welfare for so long in this country. We've now got like fourth-generation welfare recipients who sincerely believe that you and I are obligated to give them an apartment and to give them money so they can buy their $200 gym shoes and a 72-inch widescreen plasma television. Because you and I owe them. Really? We don't owe you shit. Get off your ass and work for it.
But you see, but if the work's not there, what are they supposed to do if they've been...
It's not the first generation that's had that happen.
Right.
The Great Depression had 25% of the male population out of work. Men could not find jobs in their hometown, and so they would walk down to the railroad tracks, jump on a moving train, and travel across the country looking for work. They were called hobos. But they were not derelicts. They were not too lazy. They were going out of their way to find any job. They would walk up and down the sidewalk and knock on the door and ask the woman of the house if they could, like, sweep the garage. Is there anything at all that I can do for you to make a couple of dollars so I can mail the money home to try to support my children? Welfare and charity was hated. They didn't want charity. They wanted to be able to work. That was shortly after the Great Depression. Now we've got people who are happy to be on welfare. Like, why would I stay home? Why would I go to work and get minimum wage when I can stay home, eat bonbons, watch my favorite soap operas, and the government's going to give me more money than I could get when I'm working?
Yeah, it's laziness. But the thing is that if our tax dollars are going to these schools and these schools aren't preparing anyone for anything, shouldn't there be some kind of strings attached to that? If, like, you don't...
What makes you think that our tax dollars are going to support the school?
They say the property taxes go to support the
schools. If you go back and read the Grace Commission report, which is a report generated during Ronald Reagan's presidency, you will discover that none of the money collected on April 15th goes for roads, hospitals, infrastructure, schools, none of that. It's all a lie. The money that they collect on April 15th goes to pay off some of the interest on the national debt. Let me put that in personal terms. Let's pretend you have a credit card with $30,000 in debt. That's a lot of credit card debt. You should never have gotten it. But okay, got $30,000 credit card debt. And they send you a statement every month that says your minimum monthly payment is $250. If you pay $250 a month, you will eventually pay off the debt, assuming you don't die right away. It is about the slowest way to pay off a credit card amount. If you want to get rid of your credit card debt, you got to pay at least twice the minimum monthly payment in order to get rid of your credit card debt. But what the tax money does, they collect money April 15th, and it goes to pay some of the interest. And so in my credit card metaphor, you get a bill that says the minimum payment is $250 a month, and you're paying maybe $150 a month. You're not even paying the minimum for the month. What's going to happen to your credit card debt? Go up or go down?
Right, it's just going to become...
It's going to go up because you're not even paying the interest.
Right.
And Americans are totally ignorant of our economic system. They're totally ignorant of the Constitution, which says the states may only use gold or silver coin as tender in payment of debt. Congress is given the authority to coin money and regulate the value thereof. What would you coin money out of? If you were going to make coins, what substance would you use to make the coins?
Depends on gold, silver, bronze.
Okay, it would be metal.
Metal. Okay.
You would be making coins out of some kind of metal.
Okay.
Would you make coins out of paper?
No, because that's impossible.
No, that's not a coin. When you print dollar bills, that is not coining money. So the Federal Reserve Act, which started in 1913, is 100% totally unethical, unconstitutional, and everybody in the Federal Reserve should go to jail for treason.
All right.
But the American public isn't smart enough to have read the Constitution. They don't understand that gold and silver cannot be counterfeited. It's either gold and silver or it's not. But if I allow the Federal Reserve to print fiat paper money, they can literally print money out of thin air. And when they print extra money, your money becomes worth less. And the Federal Reserve has been counterfeiting your money for over 100 years. They've printed quadrillions of dollars of paper money. So your money is now worthless. Would you take monopoly money?
Probably not. But the stores
Probably
don't
not.
accept that.
Because monopoly money is worthless. If your great-grandpappy was participated in the Civil War, you had a trunk full of Confederate money, would you be able to spend Confederate money anywhere?
Nope.
No. So then why are you accepting Federal Reserve notes, which are worthless fiat counterfeit money?
Because you're programmed.
Because you've been conditioned. You are incapable of thinking for yourself, and you do whatever the government tells you to do. Let's ask this question. We just had April 15th, 2 days ago. Why does the government have to collect your money? We're going to collect taxes.
I got
Why?
a refund.
If you can print as much money as you want, just print money. Why bother asking me for it?
It's like having a printing press and asking people for newspapers.
That's right. So none of it makes any sense. If you sat down and thought about it for even 15 seconds, you'd realize that the government is ripping you off.
It's sad. So what? Okay, let's just say like a person wanted to become a paralegal. He went to university. What?
Why?
Oh, well, it's just a hypothetical I'm coming up with because like the thing is that we talked about how the student loan debt, it's like you can't escape it. So
the law system that you're talking about is extra constitutional.
Oh, okay.
The Constitution, Article 3, says that government has authority in common law equity law, and admiralty law.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the three jurisdictions that the government can use in a courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
If you and I go to Paris, we're sitting along with Champs-Elysees, and I reach over and I grab somebody's croissant. Do you understand French?
Yeah, a little bit, but not too much.
So if they start yelling at us, do we know why they're pissed?
No. Well, yeah, we took the croissant.
It's because I stole their breakfast.
Right.
So I say, don't worry about it, Ariel. I'm an expert in the Constitution. You and I go to a French courtroom. Can I talk about the U.S. Constitution in a French courtroom?
It doesn't apply.
It doesn't apply because French law is extra constitutional. You can't make it unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. The American U.S. Constitution has no authority in France. They can come up with their own system of law. But quoting the U.S. Constitution in a French court is meaningless.
Mm-hmm. So a paralegal is extra constitutional?
Statutory law was invented in 1933 when FDR took us off of the gold standard. If you have an apple and I give you gold or silver, we exchange property and we automatically fall under common law. When FDR passed House Joint Resolution 192, he made it illegal for people like you and I to own gold. That action is unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they didn't shoot him before he got off the balcony. Mm-hmm. But we assume that this is the law, and since Federal Reserve notes, they took away gold and gave us, what do we call it? Legal tender. They took our gold and gave us legal tender. Legal tender is not property. It's worthless paper. So worthless paper does not belong in a common law court. It is colorable money. I challenge you to look up the word colorable in a law dictionary. It means artificial, counterfeit, pretend. Mm-hmm. It looks like money, it spends like money, but it's not really money. Mm-hmm. So if it's not really money and it's colorable money, now we have to invent colorable law to adjudicate it. And statutory law was invented in 1933 outside the Constitution. So if you go into a statutory courtroom and you start to quote the Constitution, they will laugh at you the same way they would laugh at you if you went into a French courtroom. Statutory law is outside the Constitution, and if you want to become a paralegal, you are certainly not doing yourself or anybody else a favor. You are digging yourself deeper into a system that was designed to take everything that you have.
Mm-hmm. The people who are aware of all these terrible things happening, is there any kind of practical thing they can do to spread the word? Because we're already too deep in this thing. I don't know how we're gonna come out, but the question is, for that, let's say there's a college student listening to this and they got their medical degree, all of a sudden they find out there's no jobs in that field, they're who knows how many dollars in debt, and they're just stuck. Now they're on welfare because they don't have a job, they're paying down college debt. Like, what can they do to figure out a situation when they're so deep in it? I guess that's up to them, or it's very troubling.
It is difficult and unpleasant. If you are on an iceberg and you suddenly realize that your iceberg is melting, not going to be there for very long, and you want to get back to real land, you're going to have to jump into the ice cold water and swim. And you may not make it, because when your body's in this ice water, you may go numb and you may pass out. Mm-hmm. and you're standing on this iceberg and you go, well, I don't want to jump in the cold water. Okay? Well, then stand there on the iceberg as it melts, and eventually you'll be in the ice water anyway, probably further away from land than you are. Okay? What you are really asking, even though you didn't verbalize it, you're asking, isn't there an easy, peaceful way? And the answer is no. It's not going to be easy, and it's probably not going to be peaceful. How did the United States, how did the colonies, the 13 colonies, separate from England?
It was hard and bellicose. I guess it was the opposite of easy and peaceful.
That's right. Now, in January of 1776, most of the people in Philadelphia said, no, we are not going to war. King George has the largest army, the largest navy in the world. Going to war with King George would be suicide. Okay? And it's going to be really, really hard. No, we're not going to do that. By July 4th, everybody voted to say, to hell with King George, we're not going to play his game anymore. And the Declaration of Independence explicitly says that these nations are free, sovereign, and independent states. And any political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is totally dissolved. You want to be a free nation? You're going to have to kick King George in the ass. And a year, more than a year before the Declaration of Independence was signed, the British soldiers marched secretly from Boston to Lexington and Concord. Most of your listeners are going to suspect that they went to Lexington and Concord to collect the guns and ammunition, which is true, but that was not their high priority. That was the second reason they went. What was the number one priority of going to Lexington and Concord?
Well, they didn't really explain that to me.
I know.
Yeah.
So much the school system that you went to.
Yeah.
The reason that they went to Lexington and Concord is because there were two guys who were getting everybody all excited. John Hancock had lots of money. He was like the Bill Gates of his day. And Samuel Adams, who was the spark plug. He's going, screw it, let's go to war. And he was the person who was making King George look bad. He was getting everybody fired up. They go, hey, this is not okay.
Right.
So Samuel Adams is the one who organized the Boston Tea Party. What do your listeners know about the Boston Tea Party? A, it was in Boston, and B, they threw tea into the harbor.
Yeah, the classic school system line.
Okay, and what else?
They dressed as Indians.
Did they throw tea into the harbor because the tax was too high?
Because it was there and it didn't represent them.
What was the tax on tea?
Tax on tea, it was like tobacco.
How much was the tax? Give me a percentage. What was the
They
percentage?
never explained that to me.
What's that?
They never explained that to me.
2%.
2%, okay.
When was the last time you saw a tax for 2%?
Never.
They did not throw tea into the harbor because the tax was too high.
They threw it because it was illegitimate.
They threw the tea into the harbor because there was any tax at all. King George does not get to decide what we spend our money on. Him and the horse he rode in on. John Hancock and Samuel Adams were the people who were making the people pissed. So if you have a mob situation, what's the first thing the police are going to do? Who are the first people the police are going to arrest?
The
right?
the agitators.
The organizers, exactly. Because there are one or two people who have actually got the balls to do anything, and everybody else is a follower. So if you arrest the two guys that are in charge, everybody else is going to go, oh, well, I don't want to cause any trouble. So the number one priority of the British going to Lexington and Concord was to arrest John Hancock and Samuel Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Picking up the guns and ammo was kind of, well, as long as you're there. And the British said, throw down your guns and disperse.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't. Nobody knows exactly who pulled the trigger first.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if it was the British. We don't know if somebody on the colony side got nervous. Somebody pulled the trigger. Everybody was, too much adrenaline. And so the colonists chased the British soldiers all the way back to Boston, about 12 or 13 miles, and we killed half of them along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So on Independence Day, which just coincidentally happens to be on the 4th day of July, on Independence Day, we are celebrating the people at Lexington and Concord who were killing the local police officers a year before the Declaration of Independence was signed.
Mm-hmm.
I do not advocate killing police officers. I would like to do this peacefully. However, killing police officers is always an option.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the best way to do it is to starve the beast. As in, if these institutions like the schools and the colleges are not supporting our youth in becoming functional when they leave, cut the money supply to them, cut the help, cut the everything until we put something on them that says, look, these children are going here and they're not, becoming functional or literate or anything. We're gonna starve you, or we're gonna put something on you that says, you either make these, not make them, but you either provide something that's good or you don't get our support. That's what I think.
Well, that's a wonderful thought.
Okay.
And if you are brave enough to do it, that makes one. You asked me, how can we fix the problem? One of the ways we can fix the problem is have all parents pull their children out of school. And what's their response going to be? Absolutely, Ariel, you've shown us the way, and we're just going to keep our children at home. I'm going to teach my children myself. Are they going to say that?
Probably not.
Probably not.
I don't have the time. I have to go to work.
I don't have the time. Oh my God, we're going to come up with all sorts of excuses. Oh, that's easy for you to say, Ariel, but I got a job, I'm busy, and this is the only way that okay, so send your children to a government-controlled school, but don't come crying to me. When they get out of college, they've got hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans, and they're not smart enough to read a newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my fault.
You're right. The thing that I read is that, like, some people want to save everybody, but I read only save the people who swim towards you. As if you're trying to help them and they don't appreciate it and they're making your life miserable, like, cut it off. But if you see that they're making that stride, then I think you can take them. And what are your opinions on that?
Right, but nobody has the courage to do that. It's like, oh, these poor people, they're going to die. Yeah, you're right. They're not going to die because you were mean. They're going to die because they were stupid. And that's not my fault. There is an article out on the news internet that high school students in New Zealand were complaining. They thought the test that they took was unfair because the test they took said, we want you to write a trivial paragraph. And so they wrote about landing on the moon, they wrote about curing cancer, they wrote about things. And they failed that question because they didn't understand the definition of the word trivial. And the high school students are upset because they don't think they should be given, they thought that question was unfair. They don't think they should be counted wrong for that question because they didn't understand the definition of trivial. Okay, do you understand the definition of test? A test is where we find out whether or not you know something. And this particular question was written, and its purpose was to find out if you understand the definition of trivial. You don't understand the definition of trivial, you deserve to get it wrong, and if you don't understand the definition of trivial, you're stupid. But you're going to complain to me because you're stupid? Right. Study hard.
So what's your message to the people who realize that, you know, the ship is sinking? Like, where would they go for the lifeboats, or are they just... Well, I guess everybody's situation is different. Everybody grew up with different families, different countries, different economic, socioeconomic statuses. So I guess it depends if they want to help out their situation. Would they reach out to someone, or... I mean, it's complicated, but...
So you're describing a situation where they are not smart enough to solve their own problem. They're looking for someone else to be smart for them. I can tell them what they should do, but I'm telling you in advance, they're not likely to do it. I'm a doctor. You come to my office and say, Dr. Mike, I'm overweight, basically a couch potato. The girls won't talk to me. You know, life sucks. I want to be healthy and strong and like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I want the girls running their fingers through my hair. You know, what do I have to do? And Dr. Mike says, well, you got to stop eating junk food. You got to start eating healthy salads, you know, things that are good for you. You got to get your ass off the couch and go to the gym and start exercising. And you say, well, gosh, that's awfully hard. Don't you have some pill that I can take? No. There's no pill. If you want to be, you know, God's gift to women, you're going to have to get off your ass and exercise. You didn't know that before you came to the doctor's office? You didn't know that if you want to look good, you got to eat healthy and do your exercise. That's a surprise.
Okay. Yeah.
You didn't need my advice. What you need is the self-discipline to follow the advice.
Right. But if I may interject, then the schools that they were in for those 12 years, those government schools, are the doctors who told them to just eat junk food and just do unhealthy things. And of course they listened to it. But the thing is that maybe like they find out that those schools were doctors that were giving them terrible advice, and now they want to change their life around.
Stop going to the schools. That's a logic. That's a yes or no. You don't need my advice to tell you to stop going to those schools.
Of course not.
If you want to find out how to make your life better, I recommend that you read Frederick Bastiat's The Law. It's a short pamphlet, shouldn't take very long. It will explain to you what a legitimate government is able to do. Then I recommend you go to my website, constitutionpreservation.org, go to Good to be King and download Chapter 2 of my book. I encourage people to read Chapter 2 for free. And after you read Chapter 2, start studying the Constitution. I've got an 8-hour Constitution class online for free.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to cost you anything except your time and dedication.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You got to know the difference between rights and privileges. You have to know who's in charge, you or the government.
Right.
We, the people, ordain and establish the Constitution. We invented Congress.
Mm-hmm.
If we, the people, invented Congress, who works for who?
Exactly. And I'm just saying this because there are a lot of people out there who may be stuck in some 9 to 5 job, but you see their parents put them in a school and maybe they didn't learn the basics of business or finance and all of these things. And of course, but there's a lot of stuff on the internet, but it's very hard to discern information sometimes.
Ariel, many of these people are not able to be saved. If your parents bought a ticket for you on the Titanic, you're going to drown in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I can't help you. The only people I can help are the people who haven't gotten on a boat yet. It's not possible to save everybody.
Okay.
People are going to starve to death. People are going to die. Mostly they're going to die because they never got a proper education. I'm sorry, that's very sad, but you're going to die.
Okay.
I can't fix that. Now, if you want my help, I can tell you what you're missing, but as a teacher, I can't do anything. I can't force you to learn. The only thing I can do is make your learning easier.
Okay.
I can lay out the little breadcrumbs, and if you're smart enough to follow the Hansel and Gretel trail, I can lead you to the correct answer. But you're the one that's going to have to do all the work. I don't do the learning.
Right. You take initiative. That's who, and
That's right.
that's the people who succeed.
And the point that you seem to be ignoring is that most people do not have the initiative. Most people are, even if I give them the answer, they're not going to be willing to act on the answer.
Michael, I learned that in my life the hard way. There were a lot of people who I tried, and I just saw that they were ignoring me. That when I was trying to help them, I was trying to show them this stuff is hurting you. Like, stop it. But they don't listen. So I guess I'm gonna have to be in agreement with you.
And we have evidence of that every year. Mm-hmm. Every year people make a New Year's resolution. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get myself buffed up. So if you go to the gym in January, mm-hmm. there are so many people you got to stand in line to use the equipment. Mm-hmm. Everybody is there trying to get all buffed up. Mm-hmm. How many people are there in February? Less than that.
Half. You go in March. There's 0.
Right. Yeah. You go to the gym in March, and you can use any equipment you want anytime because there's nobody there. So these people don't have the motivation, they don't have the self-discipline to follow through. Mm-hmm. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
You're right, yeah.
But it's not easy, and so most people are like electricity. Mm-hmm. People in electricity always take the path of least resistance. So if I can sit on my ass on the couch and watch Netflix, then I don't have to do all this hard stuff. Mm-hmm. Fine, but you're going to be one of the people who die.
Okay. Yeah. Well, some parents have big effects on their children. Like when a mother is drinking or doing drugs when they have a baby in the womb, that damage is going to stay with that kid for the rest of his life. So I'm saying there's really nothing we can do.
You're making my argument for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is very little chance that child who has been damaged by an alcoholic mother is ever going to do anything more than deliver newspaper. Maybe if they're lucky, they work at McDonald's and they can ask, do you want fries with that?
Okay.
But it's not my fault.
Well,
I am able and willing to teach anybody almost anything.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't want to learn and they don't have the determination to study, there's not a damn thing I can do for it.
Fair enough. That's just the way the ball bounces. I mean, and yeah, that's right.
Good luck.
Good luck. So like if you were just sending a signal to those who had that will and that determination and that fortitude, then you just probably give them those links, or would you be open to doing something with them?
I've already told you what they should do, Ariel.
Okay.
They should read Bastiat's The Law. They should read my Chapter 2, Rights versus Privileges, and they should study the Constitution.
Okay.
If they get that far and they are still motivated, they can contact me, give me their situation, and I will give them advice. But I have a T-shirt that says, I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, we're on the same page with the law. Like, the education system has been destroying our country for the longest time, and I just thought it was like,
stop sending your children to school. Stop giving me excuses why you have to send your children to school. Pretend school is Auschwitz. You go, well, I really don't have enough, food or time, so I'm going to send my child to Auschwitz. That's what the government wants you to do. That's just as rational as, I have to send my children to school.
Yeah, Mike.
Stop bitching to me.
Right. It would be funny if it weren't so sad. Really.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't find it funny at all.
Mhm. Mhm. It's just ignorance. It's passed down from generation to generation. So whatever generation wants to cut that off and start anew, let's welcome that, I think, So
there is no easy answer. There is no answer where everybody lives. It's going to be difficult. People are going to die. If you don't want to be one of the people who die, you're going to have to work your ass off. End of story. Stop asking me for a get out of jail free card. They don't exist.
Right. Yeah, no, like a realist, a practical realist. That's what we need. Okay, yeah. Just the realities. Yeah, but at least if they become aware of it. But even if they become aware of it, doesn't mean anything.
So you wake up and you look around and you go, oh, I'm on an iceberg floating in the middle of the ocean and my iceberg is melting. Okay, now you become aware of it. What are you going to do? Go back to sleep?
Mm-hmm. Right. You're gonna jump, and you're gonna, it's gonna be hard, tough, but you can, if you have a chance to get through it. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I think it's been over the 45 minutes. It's been interesting. That's for sure. And yeah, I'm gonna record, edit, maybe get some help from Richard, and hopefully we can disseminate this to people who can wake up and want to do something about it. But we'll see what happens.
Okay.